Great. So we'll talk after. Okay. So hello and welcome. We're here at at our show, and BullCaster. Philip is our guest today. So we're we're investors in BullPerks Kingdom, and we're big supporters of their projects. So we sorry for a little bit of delay. Both of us are probably on the move. So, it's a very dynamic market, but we're still here, as always, and live streaming. So just as a reminder, guys, so if you're on YouTube Live, if you're on Twitter Live, if you're on LinkedIn or any other sessions in Facebook, so please at the end you can or now even send us questions, and Philip will be able to answer them. So that's our goal today. Right, before we tell more about the CryptoBlades Kingdom, please, I will just let Philip say a few words about himself, and I will go from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, first off, thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure speaking with you, and glad to have this opportunity to talk to both of our communities, really. Yeah, just a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the CEO of Riveted Games, the development company behind CryptoBlades and CryptoBlades Kingdoms. A little bit about myself, I guess. So I started Riveted Games in 2014. We were in the traditional gaming space up until 2020, where during that time we released a number of games on the Steam platform. We self-published, we did commission work as well, and won a few awards to boot. In 2020, we got started in blockchain gaming, pretty much when I saw that more that could be done with with NFTs in the gaming space. And so the original CryptoBlades kind of came out as a sort of experiment in a way, and has obviously grown into something much, much larger, which is really what CryptoBlades Kingdoms aims to continue, where with the current state of it right now. So we finished our alpha in April, and we're now preparing for a beta, which is going to include hopefully over 1,000 players to begin stress testing the system. It'll be, I think, close to feature complete, actually. And yes, that's me coming up either in July or early August. So all of you can kind of keep up to speed on that. But anyways, I know there's a lot of different topics that we want to be talking about, but that's just for those little background for those who maybe aren't aware.
We appreciate the context, right? So that's good, for people to know, especially for those who were not who were not able to invest in you guys. And then we're always, discussing the most exciting industry topics with, the best experts in the industry, right? So again, Philip Devine, the CEO of CryptoBlades Kingdom, are with us today. And as I remember, you guys, you're probably one of the biggest, and at a time when you launched, you were one of the most played and one of the most hyped, BNB chain games, with 1.5 million blockchain transactions, 4,000 users, and I think 600K, in the player rewards, and there's a lot of great things, that were, even back in the previous cycle, right, were happening. So probably I think it will be interesting for our people who are listening to this podcast, to hear in the stream that what is happening right now. Right now we're seeing the situation where over 1 million people actively participate in GameFi market every day, but still the numbers are not where we want them to be. So maybe you can give us a little bit of overview, based on your your game, the CryptoBlades Kingdom. Where do you see we're advancing?
Definitely. So one of the things that we're kind of generally seeing and is people don't necessarily want a AAA game knockoff, in the sense of what we're kind of seeing that has, I think, depressed the overall quality of GameFi, which then actually negatively impacts the amount of people actively participating in GameFi is you kind of have a lot of these projects that are like, well, what's a popular AAA game? And I'm going to make the exact same thing in GameFi, thinking that people will want to play their game instead of the AAA game. So like, the example I always bring up is, there's a lot of maybe first-person shooters that are in the GameFi space, which have a specific challenge, because why would someone play their game instead of play Call of Duty or or Fortnite even, right? If you're kind of thinking battle royale even, and it's not to say that these games won't get played unless they're as good or better than the AAA game counterpart. But what it does mean is you need to really be true to what gamers are looking for when they're using a blockchain game versus a AAA game. And what that comes down to in the current market is being able to earn. And so there's since the market downturn, there's been a sort of ambiguous terminology around play to earn, which has morphed into something called play and earn, which personally I see as a big mistake by GameFi in general to begin even adopting terminology like that. Because essentially what that's saying is the one thing you're here to do, which is play a game and earn money from it, you don't want that earning to be ambiguous, right? Play and earn is kind of like, maybe you'll earn, right? And so that needs to end. That's putting a huge amount of depression on GameFi in general, because the ability to create systems where people can play to earn are very much continuing to improve, and a lot of the companies are really using it as a cop out. Like, a lot of the people who sort of are proponents for it maybe made a lot of money selling NFTs, and they no longer can even pay out rewards potentially, because that gets into the whole 2 token versus 1 token system, which is another topic in general. But all that being said, players need to know, and we're even dedicated to, those assets will always be returning dividends, essentially. Like even with CryptoBlades, which is still paying out rewards to over 20,000 players daily to this day, right? A year later, when most other active GameFi projects are completely gone. And that's what we're kind of bringing into CryptoBlades Kingdoms, is like, hey, not only is there a lower barrier to entry here, right? For those of you who don't know, we also just launched our own free gas chain entirely. So that's going to be where CryptoBlades Kingdoms resides. So you won't even have to pay gas fees to play CryptoBlades Kingdoms. On top of that, the system is less layer 1 dependent, which means less blockchain interactions in general, which means the gameplay is a lot more fun, but we're also not competing against some sort of AAA counterpart, right? Where this is really based on a target audience that sort of meets what I was describing earlier, which is just people who want to know that they can go to a game, that there's going to be earnings from it, and it's not going to be a huge time sink, right? There's actually idle components to CryptoBlades Kingdoms that you can be sort of setting up all of your stuff and then watching it all play out over the course of days and weeks. Of course, the more you involve yourself with it, the better you'll be. So there's also that base amount of knowledge, which is also important. So those are, generally speaking, some of the things that I see as sort of needing to take place, and some of the things that we're definitely attempting to hit with ours, but that I want to see more of in the GameFi industry in general.
Perfect. No, thank you for this outlook. I actually agree. And that was interesting, like that you're talking about the chain, right? So I think a lot of the users will not even see it because it's going to happen on the back end. Like as long as it's like less gas fees, it's more efficient, and it's, saving people money. That's what the end user cares about. And that's what I love about like what your team is doing. Like, you care about the things that a lot of us don't have to even see, like the magic happening like somewhere behind the scenes, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. But I also want to emphasize another kind of like to do a little segue to the, the advantages of what's happening right now in the crypto and the NFT games, like, and their economies. Basically, we're talking about digital assets, and they provide opportunities for the players to earn money, right, in game. And as you mentioned, right, sometimes games are not great in designing, like tokenomics or in-game like token design, and that's a separate skill, like we're talking about. So I want to pick your brain and ask you, like, what are the other advantages of NFT based games for players and for investors, and what in specific example of CryptoBlades Kingdom you did differently, that why you think you will succeed in the future?
Yeah. So in general, I think what blockchain gaming has to offer the world of gaming as a whole is really related to even just the very first reason I got into it in general, which was I see all of these sort of predatory practices in traditional gaming, that many of which we've moved on, because it's almost as if things have slowly been getting worse in the traditional gaming world, especially with regard to monetization over a period of time that it utilizes, what's called like these dark patterns, like these things that are created to siphon money out of your pocket. And it's gotten worse and worse, over the years, I would say, to the point of, you used to be able to not only buy a game, but you could buy a game and you could pass that cart over to your friend and he can play that game too, right? Like you can do whatever you want with it. It's literally physically yours. And then we get to the place where, well, now everything is on Steam, and Steam has user accounts, and like you got like all these different digital rights management, which is what kind of evolved from that. And then you have, okay, well, so now the game that you bought, well, actually wasn't the game. You have to buy the DLC to play the game. And then okay, we get another phase of monetization, and it's breaking the product into tiny individual pieces, right? You're diluting the amount that your customers are purchasing. You're just like a token. And then from there, you have microtransactions, and you have in-app purchases, and you have all kinds of different subscriptions and things like that, where it's like it's just totally out of control. And I will also add that it's not that everything is wrong with that sort of micro transaction, but what is wrong is that the assets that they are being sold are not theirs. And because of that, that is why they can never extract the value back out. So it's not like it just goes one direction. It goes directly to the game publisher or game developer. And naturally, we have an industry which is, hundreds of billions of dollars worldwide, right? With the gaming industry, with the biggest dogs at the top being, in a way, the most predatory ones. And Diablo Immortal kind of has shown a little bit about that. And that's not even a comment on the game. It's just really the monetization strategies, right? So that whole thing was in my mind as I was thinking about NFTs. And I was like, that's how really the idea came about with CryptoBlades, which was really simple. Just, hey, you're going to create a character, and that character is an NFT and it's yours. If you ever want to sell it, whatever you've invested into it, someone else can purchase that off of you. And sometimes they'll purchase it off of you for more than what you paid for it. And sometimes they'll purchase it off of you for less, right? But that's the way the market works. And it's just the option to have. And from there, the same thing happened with CryptoBlades, and the blades themselves can be, it goes on and on. All that being said, that's like the overall problem statement that GameFi solves. Is previously money goes one way, now money goes both ways. That's GameFi in a nutshell, and that's what we are still committed to with CryptoBlades Kingdoms, where the land that you reside is going to be built up over time. It's going to be brought to life. It's going to have all different kinds of buildings and units and production power, and maybe it'll even have a really rare ID number, like all different kinds of things that people will attribute value to or maybe not attribute value to, but that's really up to them. And it's giving players that option when it comes to, hey, not only is this thing that you've invested in for a very long time and maybe even spent a lot of money on yours, like you can also give that to someone else. And when you want to make an exit, you can get at least something of what you, even if it's a penny, that's more than what you put into it. And it's having that option and that freedom. So overall, I think that vision, if that's not what is propelling a product in the GameFi space, it won't, it's one of those kind of, again, core elements. Like if you're in play to earn and you're not saying you're going to continue to pay out dividends to your players, don't call yourself play to earn. Don't call yourself a blockchain game if you're not going to allow people to own their assets and to do whatever it is that they wish with them, right? So those are some kind of core pillars that obviously we're doing with CryptoBlades and CryptoBlades Kingdoms, but that I think in general are necessities for GameFi.
Thank you for this answer. Right. So, as you understand, this live is also for a lot of our community, like to ask you questions directly, because you and me can chat like for hours offline. Yeah. So that's amazing. So I'll ask you just the last question on my side, and then I'll open up the mic to the other people. Like so we're just gonna basically read their questions from YouTube, from Twitter, and others. From on my side, just to segue, like just curious, like, based on what you were explaining on the different, designs, different reward systems and different incentives, like, so in your case, like CryptoBlades Kingdom, I know you have dungeon rewards, you can form a guild, you can have a lot of interesting in-game mechanics to be incentivized to continue playing. And that, I'm sure that helps with retention. No, but my real question, like more blunt, I would say, like for people who don't want to spend a lot of time getting into all the in-game mechanics, it's kind of a different world you have to explore, like a new subject in the school that you have to, oh my God, like how this game is designed. So where would you advise to start? Let's imagine there's a person who's first time hearing this, right? They don't know all the details, all the minute, like things, like in intricacies, like, but they want to understand basics. Okay, I need a good game to play, and how can I earn a little bit, at least for doing what I love?
Yeah, right. So specifically with ours, to get started. So first off, CryptoBlades Kingdoms is a continuation of CryptoBlades, and there's even utility for the existing CryptoBlades to be used in there. And it's also a standalone product. So you don't have to be playing CryptoBlades to play CryptoBlades Kingdoms. You don't have to know all those little details, right? If you either want to get started or you want to make different sort of levels of investment or involvement, whether that's purchasing the token or purchasing land, all that information can be found at CryptoBladesKingdoms.io. And it has, of course, all the different how-tos. You get started in communities, and you can kind of go from there. For additionally, as you mentioned, there's lots of different ways that you can earn in the game. There's lots of different goals. I invite all of you to apply for the whitelist for the beta. It doesn't cost you anything, and you won't even have to use gas to test it, but you will be doing, making sure that this product is fun, and you can be trying it out, etc. And of course, there's a lot of game that is sort of opened up as you play, so you don't have to just be completely overwhelmed. But if you love all of those details, which I know obviously there's always people out there that do, you can obviously check out our wiki and from the website and head into the communities to ask any specific questions, but you can see how all of the features are laid out and everything like that. And I'll also add one more fun thing too, and that's with respect to even people who maybe like, hey, I kind of want to start a pseudo guild, or maybe I have a guild, and there's guild owners who are in the audience right now. We're also partnering with an NFT rental and guild management company that's going to be making it so that all of these NFTs can be uploaded into a secure vault, and then you can be monitoring the performance and even delegating out your assets to your own scholars. If you just own a couple and you want to just try this out, hey, I'm going away for a week, can someone take these over for me? You're going to get a little cut of my income from this, etc. Right? Like there's that option too. So for people who are just like, well, cool, maybe I want a little passive income here, and I want to be able to participate in this. So yeah, high level. Yeah. So
that's actually very exciting. That's like even for me, that's pretty innovative. So guys, it's basically to give you a little bit of what Philip just described. So if think about it, you have a rental property, right? Then you can hire a management company in a form of like guild or scholars who will with your assets make money for you while you're asleep. And this is amazing. I mean, seriously, this is a dream. Maybe I should try that. Like, have a lot of assets.
Yeah.
Okay. So with this fun and great news, like sincerely great news for everyone who's part of your ecosystem or becoming a part of your ecosystem soon. So we're open up the questions from the audience, because I think that's super important to hear from the people who are actually excited to learn from you. So I'm just going to read them and you can briefly reply.
Absolutely.
So Angel from YouTube is asking, as we know, there's a blockchain trilemma about scaling, decentralization, and security. Does the GameFi industry experience similar issues?
I would say that because of the reliance on blockchain as the sort of layer one or backend, I would say it suffers from all of the same issues because it resides on the blockchain. I would say it also suffers from additional issues because of the sort of user psychology of blockchain gaming in general. But scaling in particular is, I would say, one of the most challenging ones because, for example, reward systems that are based on smaller, user scale, sometimes too many users is actually too bad, right? It's too much of a good thing. So yes, I would certainly answer that simply that way.
Okay, no, I agree. There's no better way to, unless we have a 1 hour technical conversation.
Exactly.
Okay. So Eugene from YouTube is asking, what influenced your choice to launch a new game when you've already had CryptoBlades, and how does it compare with the original game?
Yeah. So the choice was one that was made it's always part of our roadmap initially, and was made, even announced shortly after CryptoBlades was announced, that, hey, we want to actually create this kingdom scale game alongside this. And that was how we kind of saw these RPG players and characters and weapons making their way into CryptoBlades Kingdoms. But additionally, what we're learning with CryptoBlades is that, having been able to pay out rewards for over a year now, there's a lot of tokenomics strategies and things like that we've been incorporating into CryptoBlades Kingdoms to make sure that is a success too. So it's also just a matter of, hey, we're learning, we're innovating in all these different ways. Let's continue doing that.
Perfect. No, I think it's a fair question. People, we hear a lot of criticism as founders are building too many projects and their names is so just to full disclosure, that's not the case with Philip. It's just a continuation, and they use the same community, like a lot of support for both projects. So, okay, so we're moving on. So in terms of let's go to another one. Sarah from YouTube is asking, what is the main feature that helped CryptoBlades Kingdom get further than its competitors in the race? If you would pick one.
I would say our existing traction, which showed, look, we have a product that has a significant amount of support and existing users. It's kind of that idea of, if you are going to, put your trust behind somebody, it would be someone who's done it before versus someone who hasn't. And we were kind of one of the first movers in this space. So.
Perfect. Now, Asta from YouTube is asking, what is your favorite blockchain game besides CryptoBlades? And did this project help you to get inspiration for your mission?
Yeah, definitely. One that comes to mind actually is Cake Monster, a project on BNB chain, has this robbery game that's actually quite fun, where you can mint an NFT. It all resides layer one. When you can go rob other players, but when you do, it sets off an alarm, and then everybody else can kind of jump on that monster and try and rob them as well. And depending on your player power, it's basically like a lottery, and you can potentially win that robbery. And I thought that was just such a unique idea on how do you make the simplest games possible that are completely layer one. And I just thought it was really unique. So I would certainly check that out.
Perfect. Yeah, I think it's a good one. And then there is one more of a, like a general question, right? Lee from YouTube is asking, do you see there is a possibility for the big players in the gaming industry like Valve or Ubisoft, etc., to transform into decentralized Web3 forms?
No, I think that they basically Web3 is entirely like anti those types of monetization streams, right? So like, why doesn't, Gabe Newell want NFTs? Well, because he has his own digital item marketplace that they've built into Steam, right? Like, why would he, and he gets a cut whenever anything is sold on there. So why would he ever want people to be able to go peer to peer, right? It totally takes all the money out of their pockets. And so they might say, hey, look, we're Web3, like in order to sort of slap a bandage on, but it's very much anti their model, and I would say that's a hard no.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And if you think about it logically, I think it's incredible that he pointed that out. Think about it, like you're building infrastructure, you're building a pipeline where you control everything, right? So your incentives are very different. Like it's a centralized model, right? And it works out well for them. Listen, they're 80% of the profits goes to them, maybe even more, right? So, I mean, and then you have a different model where 80 to 90% of the profits goes to the community, right? So you're shooting yourself into like, so that's not like what they're doing. How that's I think very important when folks here may read in the tier one publications that why those big guys and publishers are criticizing NFTs. Have this in mind, just in case, like what's their incentives and how they're aligned with your incentives. Okay, so we're moving on. Ahmed from YouTube is asking, what incredibly strong opinion do you have about gamifying that is unimportant in the grand scheme of things? That's a interesting way to put this question.
What's my right? What's my opinion on something that's maybe not normally an opinion? Interesting. I would say I am very much a personal proponent of like completely layer one games, which actually CryptoBlades Kingdoms is not technically, because there's some backend server architecture there. CryptoBlades, the original itself, is, and part of it is just this fascination with like how can we get as much value out of the designs of these games without the sort of help of anything outside of the trustless decentralized system. Not putting any sort of weak points outside of it from a security or technical standpoint. So I would say that's something that's not normally shared, but I kind of am a proponent of.
No, that I don't agree. And I think we're gonna try to go to the last question for today because we want to see you more. So we'll leave a little bit of space for the future, right? So, I mean, I know you answered this partially, but I think, so there's another similar question. Satoshi from YouTube is asking, so hello, Philip. I have a question for you. How can crypto games create more strong tokenomics to support the reward systems? Maybe as a summary.
Yeah, well, they can certainly start with getting rid of the 2-token model, which is basically saying from the get-go, this one token is doomed to fail and this other token will eventually fail when the first one fails. That's a good start. And I think that would probably be, if we're going to keep it short, the primary answer as well.
Got it. Yeah, no, I think you're right. However, I would say in some rare occasions, dual token system works. It just requires more professionalism, like and more, I would say, more sophisticated strategies in market making, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, this is a very, very kind of, if you think about it, like, this is the art of doing everything right. With this said, like, the chances that you might fail are just higher than just with a one token, which is already complicated for a lot of folks. And we see as investors, I can tell openly, that a lot of projects fail, unfortunately, not because they have problems with the product. There's amazing development and product oriented teams, just because they don't know how to manage the secondary, like, interest, right? And it's a separate skill set, right? How to do that, right? So I think that's
right.
what's also partially meant because of that, right? Not to completely discredit great projects with dual tokenomics systems, right?
But it's right. It's a general umbrella for, I think there's certainly nuance that, again, we could say for another one where there's certain ways it could happen, but it's a very challenging road to take. So yeah.
I think one last question. I think it's important. Like Lertsky from YouTube is asking, does the full trailer of CBK done already?
It is, I believe we've just received the full version of it. We are just preparing the strategy to release that. So, but yeah, definitely in the very, very near future, you'll be seeing more about that.
Tell us when. By end of August? Roughly.
End of July.
End of July.
By the end of July.
So that's a commitment. Now we have a hold accountable. This is recorded.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yep. So listen, Philip, I love talking with you. We just want to make, we try to make it like short and sweet, straight to the point, and obviously, for the community, not only that, I think they appreciate a lot your expertise. We ask our dear community, now you can write all your questions also, even after we release, the episode, like under the section of comments, we'll share it in the directed to Philip and his team. We also urge you to actually go to their website, which is CryptoBladesKingdom.io, and then join all the communities. You'll have a lot of fun things to see, like rewards. You have some waiting lists, as Philip mentioned. So a lot more to come. And thanks everyone for joining BullCaster today. It's a crypto talk show with our investors, partners, and remarkable personalities, just as Philip is. And then listen to us every time at 3 p.m. UTC or 11 a.m. EST on YouTube Live every Friday and other channels. Thank you so much again, Philip. We want to see you more.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.